Okay, thank you. Goodbye. Love you. Goodbye. Yeah. Yeah. It was great fun. I'll see you. Hope I don't see you next Christmas. Yes. Okay. Guys, something weird just happened. Like there was this guy who had like a candle flame for a head and he was carrying a big snuff cap. And he was all like, "Here, you're gonna come with me." And then he flew me off to this old British boarding school. And he was like, "Look, it's you." And I looked and it was me, but I've never been in a British boarding school. And then he flew me to an old factory called like Fezziwigs or something. And he was like, "Look, it's you." And I looked and it was me, but I've never worked at an old factory like that. And guys, I have no clue what is going on. Born in 1936 in Salford, Lancashire, England, Albert Finney was named after his father, who worked as a bookmaker. He attended Salford Grammar School, which today is known as Will Hill Academy, and is famous for its arts programs, including the fact that in the region of Salford, it is one of the few schools with a fully working theater. Finney would attend the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art and, while still a student, appeared on the BBC as Mr. Hardcastle in a production of She Stoops to Conquer. Upon graduation, he turned down a contract from the Rank organization to join the Birmingham Repertory, where he specialized in Shakespearean roles. Success with the Rep would lead to his joining the Royal Shakespeare Company, where he understudied Sir Laurence Olivier, quickly earning himself the nickname the New Olivier. In 1959, when Olivier was taken ill, Finney got to step into his roles in a Stratford production of Coriolanus. Having already guested on several BBC shows and also appeared in stage productions filmed for broadcast, he made his official film debut playing Laurence Olivier's son in 1960's The Entertainer. But his breakthrough role was another film that came out the same year, Saturday Night and Sunday Morning. The film adaptation of Alan Sillitoe's play was the third most popular film of the year in England, earning over £500,000 in profit. Offers came in, including the opportunity to take the lead role in Lawrence of Arabia. Despite having spent 4 full days shooting a screen test for the role, Finney turned it down because he was asked to sign a multi-year contract with American producer Sam Spiegel. Instead, he would take on the role of Martin Luther in the 1961 play Luther by John Osborne, where he would give 239 performances before leaving to fulfill a previous contractual obligation. With 63's Tom Jones, Finney's star skyrocketed. British theater owners voted him the 9th most popular actor of 63, and Finney's contract, which granted him 10% of the film's earnings, brought him the equivalent of $9 million in today's money. In the same year, he appeared in the war movie The Victor, which also took off at the box office, and reprised his role in Luther for a Broadway production. When his contract for the Broadway run ended, Finney says that people were telling him to cash in while he was hot, but instead, he took a year off to sail around the world, following the course of his childhood hero, Captain Cook. Finney also began dabbling in film production, producing a remake of 1937's Night Must Fall and forming a production company, Memorial Productions, with Michael Medwin. Memorial would produce 1968's Charlie Bubbles, which Finney starred in and directed, and the film would also be the feature debut of Liza Minnelli. But by the early 70s, Memorial Productions closed up shop, and Finney made the choice to focus on his acting, saying that Memorial had been profitable enough, but that he had no taste for pitching ideas to Hollywood and waiting for the phone to ring. Meanwhile, Finney was complaining that his public image in America following 1970's Scrooge made it difficult to be cast, saying that producers kept expecting him to be a 90-year-old man. In 1974, his frustration continued following his appearance as Hercule Poirot in Murder on the Orient Express. The production was well beloved by the creator of Poirot, Agatha Christie, although she privately complained that she didn't care for the casting of Finney in the lead role, mostly because she didn't care for the fact that Finney had to wear heavy makeup and prosthetics to make him appear old enough and heavy enough to be the famous Belgian detective. Finney spent reportedly 3 hours a day in makeup. While American producers stopped thinking of Finney as a 90-year-old man, the actor would complain for years afterward that casting directors were shocked when they learned he wasn't 300 pounds with a French accent. Finney would take a break from movies, spending 3 years at the National Theatre, where he focused on plays by Shakespeare and Anton Chekhov. In 1980, not having appeared in films for 5 years, he was offered a CBE but declined, saying that honors bestowed by royalty were only good for perpetuating snobbery. By 1981, he was ready to return to the screen, but he made a conscious decision to avoid heavy makeup and costuming roles. His first 3 new roles came in thrillers, including Michael Crichton's 1981 film Looker. He would receive critical raves for his role in 1982's Shoot the Moon, but his turn as Daddy Warbucks in Annie was blasted by critics for being too broad. For his part, Finney insisted that the broadness of the character was a conscious choice, saying, "It needs bold primary colors. I don't have to reveal the inner workings of the character." Finney would continue mixing theater, film, and television throughout the 80s and 90s, including roles in The Dresser and Breakfast of Champions, and would also appear on stage as the Judge when Roger Waters played The Wall live in Berlin in 1990, a concert that was filmed for later release on video. In the early 2000s, Finney played opposite Julia Roberts in Erin Brockovich and appeared as Winston Churchill in The Gathering Storm, which won him a BAFTA, an Emmy, and a Golden Globe. He would spend the first decade of the 21st century collaborating frequently with Steven Soderbergh and appearing in movies directed by Tim Burton and Ridley Scott. In 2011, Finney released a statement that he was being treated for kidney cancer. And in 2012, the usually private performer gave an interview in which he revealed that he had first been diagnosed 5 years earlier and had already undergone surgery and 6 rounds of chemotherapy. Finney would pass away in 2019 at the Royal Marsden Hospital from a chest infection.
Not now, Mr. Scrooge, please.
£2 7 6, Miller. And now is as good a time as any.
But I'm performing.
You're always performing. Where's my money?
1968 had seen the successful release of Oliver, a musical adaptation of Charles Dickens's Oliver Twist. The producers were eager to repeat their success, and with the help of frequent Anthony Newley collaborator Leslie Bricusse, they set out to turn A Christmas Carol into a musical. Initially, they attached Richard Harris to the role of Scrooge, but Harris had to bow out when he had to leave for Israel to take over direction of The Hero from Uri Zohar. Next, the team approached Albert Finney, but he turned down the role. The next man to be attached officially to the role would be Rex Harrison, but he would step back as well because he was worried that the movie would interfere with a role he had in a play at the time. Although it has also been noted that Harrison was in the middle of a love affair with Richard Harris's wife, which may also have been a factor in the decision. Luckily, by that time, Finney had read the script and had reconsidered his decision and contacted his friend Michael Medwin, who happened to be the co-writer of the screenplay, to ask if the role was still available. Filmed over a period of 4 months at Shepperton Studios, the same location where Oliver had been filmed, Scrooge would even reuse some of the sets that had been kept in storage. It was the first ever musical adaptation of A Christmas Carol to be filmed, as well as the first adaptation to be filmed in color. And it would become the first adaptation to receive an Academy Award nomination, earning 4 in its year of release. The final musical number would be filmed with Finney singing live on set at the actor's own insistence, and, to the surprise of the production team who did not know that Finney was actually a singer, he would nail the song in a single take. Critical reaction to the movie was largely positive, with most critics praising Finney's performance, although some made it clear that they did not care as much for Bercuse's music. Richard R. Harmitz of the Los Angeles Free Press wrote that if Dickens were alive today, he would wish he had written Scrooge instead of A Christmas Carol, while Variety would rave that Finney's performance as cold-hearted Scrooge is a professional high watermark. Albert Finney would win a Golden Globe for his performance, and the film would be nominated at the Academy Awards that year for Best Art Direction, Best Costume Design, and Best Original Song Score, as well as a nomination for Best Song for the song Thank You Very Much, which I can confirm is a certified banger, and I only wish that YouTube's content guidelines would allow me to play it for you.
The minister's cat is a lazy cat.
The minister's cat is a ludicrous cat.
The minister's cat is a lascivious cat.
The minister's cat is a...
Too late,
He's out! He's out! He's out!
You see, they get furious when they lose. It's lovely.
He's out! It's him! Come on! It's him!
The pre-ghost Scrooge depicted by Albert Finney is a crabbed, hunched figure giving off nothing even remotely akin to human warmth. After his usual brusque exchange with nephew Fred and Bob Cratchit, we are treated to Scrooge storming through the streets of London, personally collecting from every vendor who owes him money. Scrooge even takes an offered bowl of soup from one of his clients to eat at home later alone. His meeting with Marley is a mixture of terror and slapstick comedy, but it certainly scares Scrooge half to death when Marley sweeps him up into the air and flies him through a whirlwind of desperate spirits. And while he doesn't warm immediately to the ghosts, it doesn't take long for him to start to regret what he has become. This isn't the only adaptation of A Christmas Carol to set the scene in which Belle leaves Scrooge within the confines of Scrooge's counting house, but it's the one that makes the most use of it to contrast with what their love had previously been. Just moments before, scenes with Belle were warmly lit outside, surrounded by green, living trees and wide open spaces, and suddenly she has to enter a cold, dark hole of an office to find the man she's come to end her relationship with. The Ghost of Christmas Present doesn't have the 2 feral children accompanying him, but we do watch him grow visibly older and more tired as the scene advances, even as Scrooge starts taking an almost childlike joy in seeing the festivities of the day, followed by an almost instant regret that he's not actually sharing in them. And not only does this Scrooge plummet into his grave, but this is actually the first Scrooge in film adaptation history to do so. So every time we've given a point so far, and every point we'll give in the future, this is where that moment comes from. And not only does he fall into his grave, but his grave then drops him straight into hell, where Jacob Marley is waiting to gleefully wrap Scrooge in his own chain and show him where he'll be spending all of eternity. And that's not a thing that other adaptations have picked up. And finally, not only does Scrooge dance and sing his way to the Cratchits on Christmas Day, but he does so in a full-on Father Christmas costume to distribute gifts to everyone. The film musical became one of the adaptations of A Christmas Carol that was a go-to for fans of the story. It would become a Christmas staple for network television, although the version that aired was edited for content. Specifically, the desperate spirits and the scene with Scrooge meeting Marley in hell were considered too intense for family viewing and were cut out. In 1971, Leslie Bricusse would collaborate with Anthony Newley on the music for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and the standout song, The Candy Man, would go on to be re-recorded by Sammy Davis Jr., becoming the popular Rat Pack members' only #1 hit with 3 weeks at the top of the Billboard Hot 100. Director Ronald Neame, meanwhile, would go on the following year to direct The Poseidon Adventure, which would be nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture. And 2 years after that, he would direct the thriller The Odessa File. In 1992, Scrooge was adapted into a stage show featuring all of the film's songs, and it premiered in the UK with Anthony Newley in the lead role. Sometimes the script just gets away from you. So tell me, what do you think of Albert Finney's take on Ebenezer Scrooge? I have to say, as one of the makeup Scrooges, he does do an awful lot of squinting and scrunching of his face, but he still manages to communicate a very lively character even so. Anyway, I would love to hear your opinion on it. Please drop down into the comments below and let me know what you think. While you're down there, there are like and subscribe buttons if you haven't hit those already. There's also a share button that you can use to share this video with your friends because, after all, sharing is caring. If you are eager to see more of my videos about Ebenezer Scrooge, the playlist that has every video so far on it is right there. And there is also a link right there for my October rundown of actors who have played Dracula. Until next time, remember to watch like it means something.